everyone, welcome to Tactical Safety. Today's video is about this crazy incident that happened in DeKalb County, Georgia the other day. This officer shot and killed a 19-year-old. So I'm going to read this news article to you, brief news article, then I'm going to show you the video. A former DeKalb County officer accused of shooting and killing a teenager while investigating an armed robbery on Tuesday night is no longer at the county jail. On Thursday morning, former officer Derek Harris Jr. turned himself in facing an involuntary manslaughter charge, which is a felony, of course, and reckless conduct. Harris was accused of shooting and killing 19-year-old Seth Eccles while investigating the robbery of a mail carrier. See, the shooting itself happened as Harris investigated an armed robbery of a U.S. Postal Service mail carrier, the GBI said. Eccles was identified as a person of interest and officers started searching for him. After learning there was an active warrant for his arrest, them and the postal inspection, the postal police, they located him and chased him into nearby woods where he tried to hide. So they also said that he was hiding in people's backyards, going to people's backyards that night, and several people called 911 to report a suspicious person in their backyard, which they have every right to do. So, said that's when Harris found Eccles. Eccles was given verbal commands by Harris, which he complied with, but Harris still shot him during the arrest. While other officers and EMS provided life-saving efforts and Eccles was taken to a nearby hospital, he died. So also this article, I'm going to put the link to it in the description box as well as the video from the news. So this goes against every aspect of training in the police academy. When you first when they teach you handcuffing in the police academy, the very first thing they tell you is if you have a weapon in your hand, holster your weapon before you handcuff somebody. Even people who have never been cops know that. That's just common sense. The cuffs I always carried my whole career are Smith & Wesson, the high security models, which are the 104s. So regular handcuff key will not work in these. And the reason I carried these was because a lot of criminals have been known to have a hidden handcuff key, like in their drawers or something like that. And so the chances of them having a hidden handcuff key that'll work for these kind of cuffs was next to none. So that's why I carried these kind of cuffs. But they tell you in the academy, when you're about to cuff somebody, you always holster your weapon first. The only time you'll have a weapon drawn when someone's being cuffed is if you have another officer that's there handcuffing the person, and then you have your weapon trained on them if you think that person might try something. Done that a bunch of times, but never once in my career have I ever seen an officer handcuff somebody and still have a gun in their hand. I've never seen that before. That totally goes against every aspect of training. And so what's most egregious is that they only gave this dude an $11,000 bond, which is a slap in the face to that boy's family that he killed. $11,000 bond. They charged him with involuntary manslaughter and reckless conduct. They didn't charge him with violation of oath of office, which they should have, because there should be nobody standing up for this guy right now. And the good thing about here in Georgia, they don't have all these police unions down here that keep bad cops on the job. So they were able to immediately fire him and charge him, which should be able to be done anywhere. Because, like I said, the police unions, they keep the bad cops on the force, which they're still being paid by the taxpayers, which is unfair to the taxpayers. If this had happened like in Chicago, for example, I guarantee he would have been on desk duty and he would still be getting his full paycheck. Like that guy, what's his name? Jason Van Dyke. He killed that boy, shot him 16 times, and it took, what, a year and a half to bring him up on charges, and the whole time he was still getting a paycheck doing desk duty? No, I'm glad that crap doesn't happen down here. But now I'm going to show you the video from that.
This morning, we just recently got our hands on arrest warrants detailing some new information about a deadly police-involved shooting that led to criminal charges against a now fired DeKalb County police officer. In fact, we just got his photo here within the last half hour, and you're looking at him now. That is former DeKalb County police officer Derek Harris Jr. Ariana Manise been following this story for us live outside the DeKalb County Jail, waiting for this officer to turn himself in. You know, Ariana, I can't help but think that is a building this now former officer knows well, and it's a process he knows well, the booking process, but this morning he's likely to find himself on the other side of what he's known.
And now we are looking at those arrest warrants, which are shedding light into why Derek Harris Jr. must now turn himself in here at the DeKalb County Jail. And that arrest affidavit, it states that Harris encountered echoes. He gave orders telling the 19-year-old to get on the ground and lay on his stomach. Echoes was face down on the ground with his hands behind his back. Harris was attempting to handcuff Echoes with one hand while holding his firearm in the other. And the affidavit says an accidental discharge struck and killed the 19-year-old. Now the GBI, they say that this investigation started after a mail carrier was robbed at gunpoint at the Rommel Oaks apartment complex. Investigators say postal inspectors questioned the 19-year-old about the robbery but allowed him to leave. Later, authorities learned that Echoes had an active arrest warrant, and that's when the postal inspector and DeKalb officers located Echoes again, but investigators say he ran away. And that encounter with Harris and Echoes happened after 911 callers later that evening. They reported someone suspicious moving around their backyards on Rommel Way. And the GBI says Officer Harris found Echoes, who complied with commands at gunpoint, and as he was being taken into custody, that is when that accidental discharge happened. And the GBI, they are now charging Harris with involuntary manslaughter and reckless conduct, and he must now turn himself in. He'll be booked on those charges here at the DeKalb County Jail. Reporting from DeKalb, I'm Ariana Maniz for 11 Alive. Back to you.
So what's so egregious about this also is the fact that police officers are held to a much lower standard than members of the public. If this had been a private citizen that supposedly accidentally shot someone and killed him, I guarantee he wouldn't be in jail with $11,000 bond. No, he'd probably be held without bond, or it'd be like $250,000 bond. It'd be something super high where there's a good chance he's not getting out. But this is the kind of stuff right here, because as police officers, they should be held to a higher standard because they enforce the laws. They're supposed to know the laws. So there's no reason in the world why he shouldn't be held to a higher standard. And another thing, they said an accidental discharge. There's no such thing as an accidental discharge. It's negligent discharge. Nothing accidental about that. It's negligent, because he never should have had his firearm in his hand while handcuffing somebody. The young man was being compliant. He was laying on the ground. And that's the same thing that happened in, I think it was Oklahoma City a few years ago, somewhere in Oklahoma. There was this guy who was a reserve cop, and he was chasing this guy on foot. The guy was they were doing like some kind of, they were trying to like do like an illegal gun buy or something like that. And then the guy who was illegally selling the guns, he took off running. They chased him, and they caught up to him, and he shot the guy in the back and killed him. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to tase him, but they already had him on the ground, so there was no reason to even tase the dude." And then he only served probably 6 months or something like that. So it's ridiculous, the punishment that gets handed out behind this mess. Like I said, I'm glad that DeKalb immediately got rid of him. They terminated him right away, and they brought him up on charges, but they undercharged him, because this should not be involuntary manslaughter. It should be, I think it should be second-degree murder. It shouldn't be first-degree, because I don't think they won't be able to prove premeditation at all, but it should at least be second-degree, because this involuntary manslaughter crap, that's a slap in the face to that boy's family. So that's my take on it. So remember to stay armed, stay vigilant, and stay tactical. See y'all next time.